The movie opens up in Montevideo, Uruguay, in October 1972. The Old Christians Club rugby team is engaged in a fierce match against their rivals. One of the younger players, Roberto, grabs the ball and sprints with determination, ignoring the captain and senior players' calls. This results in him getting tackled by the opposing team, and they end up losing the match. Although the Old Christian Club suffers a heavy defeat, the mood in the locker room remains upbeat. The players are eagerly anticipating an upcoming match in Chile, viewing the overseas trip as an exciting adventure. In the next scene, the plane departs from Uruguay carrying 45 passengers, including 5 crew members, 19 players from the Old Christians Club rugby team, and the remaining being family and friends. Among the passengers are Numa, Roberto, Nando, Gustavo, Daniel Fernandez, Diego, Enrique Adolfo, Fito, and Eduardo. The narrator of the movie, Numa, is pursuing law studies and joins the trip with his friends. We also learn that the 3 Strout guys, Daniel, Fito, and Eduardo, are cousins. Everything goes smoothly until midway through the journey. Passengers are taking photographs of each other, and the overall atmosphere is joyous, especially among the young people. However, the weather takes a sudden turn as the plane approaches the Andes mountain range. One of the players explains that the warm Argentinian winds collide with the cold mountain air, creating a suction effect and thus slight turbulence. The flight path requires a diversion to avoid the high mountains, aiming to travel through a relatively open pass between 2 peaks. However, this is where things go terribly wrong. The pilots do their best to push the plane through the stormy winds, while everyone clings tightly and watches their belongings tumble into the corridor. But the next second, the plane goes out of control and crashes into the Andes, breaking in half. One player is swept away with the tail section, while the front continues sliding until it crashes into the snow. The aftermath causes the seats to collide violently, resulting in multiple fatalities. Following the horrific incident, the survivors shake off their shock and leave their seats to assist trapped passengers. Blood is everywhere, and 2 medical students work frantically to help a man with broken limbs, trying to calm him down. While 12 passengers die from the impact, the survivors face a long and arduous wait for rescue. The plane crash tragically ends the pilot within minutes, and with all equipment damaged, the survivors are completely cut off from the outside world. Some men attempt to use the pilot's radio, but the machine has no power. On the first night, the temperatures drop drastically, plunging to a bone-chilling negative 30 degrees Celsius. Most of the students have lived in warm climates all their lives and have never seen snow. They don't even have any proper clothing to save themselves from hypothermia. As a result, they are forced to cuddle with the bodies of the deceased. When the sun rises, they place the dead bodies outside in the snow to make room for themselves. Once they organize everything, they have a small snack which they manage to gather from the intact suitcases. They are planning to ration the food to last as long as possible. In the meantime, the disappearance of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 becomes news, prompting authorities to start searching for it. The survivors occasionally hear planes flying overhead, but the crash site's location makes it impossible to see from above. The heavy snow nearly covers everything on the ground, and the crash site's difficult angle ensures that neither the wreckage nor the survivors can be spotted by the rescue planes. Determined to get help, the survivors collect debris and create a cross sign on the ground. On the 3rd day after the crash, Nando, who had lost consciousness, finally awakens. His body is in terrible condition, but he still drags himself across the ground to be with his sister, who is also in poor health. When Nando asks his friends about his mother, they reluctantly tell him that she passed away. This news devastates him, but he doesn't even have the energy to cry properly. In the meantime, the rest of the friends are working on the cross sign when they hear another plane pass by. They try to reflect sunlight with a mirror and keep yelling for attention. Someone notices the plane's wings rocking, which might be a sign that they were seen. The next day, they hear another plane, but it's far away, indicating that the search is happening in a different area. During their quest to remain alive, Numa and 3 other friends attempt to locate the tail of the plane on the other side of the mountain. They believe there are some batteries that could help them generate power. The group then makes goggles using broken mirrors and leather from the plane seats and sets out on their expedition. But when they reach halfway up the mountain, they notice that their crashed plane cannot be seen from afar because of the shimmering snow. This makes them realize that it would be impossible for the rescue planes to spot them from above. Hence, Numa and the team return to the crashed site with minimal hope. As the days go by, the group slowly runs out of food. With no animals or plants around, they try eating moss from a rock. Desperate, Nando says he's willing to eat the dead bodies if he has to, sparking an argument among the group members. Some believe it's a good idea, as their own skin has started to peel off and their urine has turned black due to infections and malnutrition. But others believe cannibalism is a sin, and they shouldn't even think of going down that path. In the end, they decide to find other means of food to keep themselves alive. Tragically, on the 8th day, Nando's sister passes away due to starvation and her injuries. This leaves him utterly devastated, as he has now lost both his mother and sister. As the days pass by, the survivors are hit by snowstorms, causing them to seek shelter inside plane debris. By day 11, they become increasingly driven by hunger. As a result, they eventually give in to their desperation and decide to eat human flesh. The Strout cousins take the initiative to handle the situation as respectfully as possible. They cut the meat from the bodies while keeping the identities a secret. They also dry some of the meat under the sun to make them more edible. One day, the group discovers a new suitcase and finds a radio inside it. They somehow manage to turn it on, hoping to hear news of a rescue operation. However, their hopes are dashed when they discover that all search missions have been called off. In the next scene, Numa and 2 others decide to search for the plane's tail again. When they finally reach the other crash site, they discover the lifeless bodies of many of their friends. On their return journey, they struggle to move quickly as the freezing winds make it hard to breathe. But despite all odds, they somehow brace the fierce storm and manage to make it out alive. On day 17, the group faces a storm for 5 days. This forces them to seek refuge inside the plane, where they spend most of their time sharing stories to boost morale. Suddenly, an avalanche occurs and buries the plane deep underground. The survivors immediately spring into action and start digging through the snow to rescue their friends. They even use their own urine to melt the snow faster. After much effort, they manage to rescue some friends, but sadly, 13 more are already lost. On day 18, the group moves the dead bodies piled up inside the plane. They are still consuming their deceased friends, as all the other food sources have run out at this point. The only one who hasn't resorted to cannibalism is Numa, but he is starting to get very weak. On day 21, the remaining group finally emerges from the snow and tries their best to dig out the plane. Eventually, they free the plane and help out all the other survivors. They then consider sending a few men on a search, but realize they cannot survive the freezing nights outside. Therefore, they agree to wait for summer. On day 34, the snow finally begins to melt, but just when things start to get better, 2 injured men fall very ill. The medical students try their best to help, but one of the men named Coco soon passes away. The survivors later find a letter from him and keep it safe. In the letter, Coco has written about his horrific experience and the beauty of the place at night. On the 36th day, 4 men, Roberto, Nando, Tintin, and Numa, set out towards the east from the crash site. They hope to trek past the Andes mountain ranges and eventually reach Chile. However, Numa is forced to abandon the journey and return to the airplane due to a severe infection on his foot. The 3 remaining men press on, and they eventually locate the broken tail of the airplane. They retrieve supplies from it and return them to their friends. Over the following days, the group attempts to use salvaged parts to generate electricity and make contact with civilization. They also endure more brutal snowstorms and unforgiving weather. By November 29th, only 17 of them have managed to survive. Tintin captures their pictures with the help of a camera that he found in one of the suitcases. Unfortunately, on the 60th day, Numa passes away due to severe malnourishment as he hadn't consumed any proper food. The remaining group then decides to embark on another journey towards the east, as it is their only chance of survival now. By this time, the weather has undergone significant changes, with winter fading and the sun growing stronger each day. This makes it feasible for Roberto, Nando, and Tintin to set out on their journey. The trio still faces harsh winds and snow along the way, but they bravely continue on their journey. After a few days, they eventually reach the highest part of the mountain range, where they spot an open valley below. The 3 realize that Chile is right beyond the range, and they can surely find help there. But since they don't have enough food left for all of them, Tintin volunteers to return to the crash site. Roberto and Nando then continue the journey, and along the way, they face many hardships. But the 2 remind themselves that they are the only hope for their friends, so they must continue. After a few days of excruciating walking, they finally come across a river which has drinkable water. Then, all of a sudden, they witness another human staring at them from afar. The duo frantically shouts for help, but the man can't hear anything as he is on the other side of a river. Therefore, he throws a paper and a pen, which the boys use to promptly identify themselves and explain their grim situation. When the man receives the paper, he is shocked and immediately rushes to the village for help. He informs the Chilean authorities, and the army gets involved in a massive rescue operation. Later, the same villager returns to the river and escorts the starving boys back to the village. He then offers them food, and they excitedly start eating. This is the first time they have had proper food in a long while. Shortly after, several police officers and media reporters surround the boys as they are eager to capture their miraculous survival story. The news quickly spreads via radio channels, reaching the ears of the remaining survivors who are still stranded at the crash site. This fills them with hope as they learn that help is on its way. With great anticipation, the men prepare themselves to look as presentable as possible. They dress up and groom their hair, knowing their faces will soon grace newspaper headlines across the world. Eventually, rescue helicopters appear on the horizon, prompting most of the men to break down in tears. They then get inside the choppers one by one and head to the nearest city. Upon their arrival, the survivors are warmly received by their parents, who have been eagerly waiting for them. Later, they are escorted to the hospital for a thorough medical examination. Thousands of people have gathered outside, wanting to catch a glimpse of the heroes. In total, 16 men managed to survive the horrific crash, the deadly avalanche, the starvation, and the 72-day excruciating wait in the snow. All of them are diagnosed with malnutrition and other deficiencies, but they are now out of danger. That night, the survivors are given individual rooms to stay. However, they gather in the same room to reflect on the harrowing ordeal they endured. And with that, this story ends here. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.